Hello, this is NEWSLIVE on Abuja television. I am Joy Malik. The headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari aborts London. Medical trip returns to Abuja from Kenya. Second batch of students arrive Abuja from Poland. Plus, NATO rejects no-fly zone over Ukraine. President Muhammadu Buhari has returned to Abuja after attending the United Nations Environmental Programme at 50 Nairobi, Kenya. President Buhari had initially planned to proceed to London after the UNEP meeting in Nairobi for a medical checkup. His special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, had announced the medical trip in a statement issued earlier in the week. Now, however, newsmen gathered that President Muhammadu Buhari returned to the country after around 1 p.m. on Friday. No reason has been given for the aborted medical checkup in London. The first batch of 415 Nigerians fleeing from the war in Ukraine has arrived at the Nnamdi International Airport, Abuja. The evacuees arrived in Abuja via Max Air by 7:10 a.m. on Friday morning. Now, the stranded Nigerians had fled Ukraine from where they were successfully evacuated to Nigeria following the intervention of the federal government with the cooperation of governments of countries neighboring Ukraine. Now, according to the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs Gabriel Aduda, the federal government has made all necessary arrangements to ensure that no Nigerian is left stranded in any of the countries where they have fled to. Meanwhile, we have news that the second batch of students fleeing the war in Ukraine has just arrived to Nigeria via the Nnamdi International Airport, Abuja. Viewer Television Jennifer Okolo is right now at the airport. Jennifer, can you bring us up to speed with the latest development as it regards the second batch of students coming in?
The first batch of Nigerian evacuees from Ukraine arrived the country from Romania early hours of Friday morning aboard a Max Air flight. Information at our disposal right now is that over 100 students airlifted from Poland on board Azman Air have just touched down the Nnamdi International Air. Meanwhile, all hands have been on deck to receive them and run them through the necessary checks and protocol. We have security personnel, medical personnel, and a host of other humanitarian agencies right here to aid the returnees in the process and make everything easy for them. Parents are also at the arrivals waiting to receive their children, and for those that will not be staying in the nation's capital city will be moved to the domestic wing where they will board flights to their various destinations. For now, there is heavy restriction for media personnel on the aircraft and on the tarmac, but we'll be bringing you details in our subsequent bulletin.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. We will bring you more details in our subsequent bulletin. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Sunday Ekanu as the new Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. The appointment of Ekanu, who's recently bowed out as Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, was made known in a test statement issued by the spokesman of the ministry, Ben Gong, on Friday. Now, Ekanu takes over from Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, whose 5-year tenure will end on 18th March 2022. Now, prior to his appointment, he served as Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, and member, Board of Trustees of TED Fund, among other important national assignments. Still on Russia-Ukraine crisis, the federal government on Friday gave all returnees from Ukraine $100 for their sufferings. This is contained in a statement by Abdurrahman Balogun, the head of Media and Public Relations, Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, Abuja. Newsmen gathered that the first batch of 450 Nigerians stranded in Ukraine returned home from Romania through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on Friday morning. Now, Balogun said that the returnees, mostly students, arrived in Nigeria with Max Air Flight 747. He, however, said that the evacuees from Poland could not return on Thursday because the flight was rescheduled for Friday to arrive in Abuja at 2:30 p.m. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees has shifted the battle for local government autonomy to House of Assemblies after federal lawmakers voted in favor of autonomy for local government areas, judiciary and others. Now, the local government workers said that they are battle ready to resist any attempt by governors to scuttle to the passage of the bill at the State House of Assembly after it was passed by the National Assembly. Federal lawmakers on Tuesday approved proposed amendment to the 1999 Constitution to grant financial autonomy to state legislatures, judiciary, and the 774 local government areas in the country. The approval followed voting on the report of the ad hoc committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution Bills 2022. President of NULG Akim Olatunji said the labor movement got a credible intelligence that some governors were making frantic efforts to ensure that the needed concurrence and passage of the bill at the State House of Assembly does not see the light of day. When NEWSLIVE returns, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has cautioned members of the public not to buy land from internally displaced persons living in Abuja. Details of these and more comes to you right after the break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is NEWSLIVE on Viewer Television, a recap of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari Aborts London medical trip returns to Abuja from Kenya. Second batch of students arrive Abuja from Poland. Plus, NATO rejects no-fly zone over Ukraine. Now, the House of Representatives has urged the federal government to embark on advanced training of personnel of the Nigerian National Park Service and adequately equip the officers in order to secure the national parks and other forest areas in the country. The House also urged the government to approve the immediate deployment of personnel and promotion of officers who are due for promotion in the NNPS. The resolutions follow the adoption of a motion sponsored by Honorable Joseph Oguma at the plenary. Now, Oguma expressed concerns that aside from poaching and illegal logging activities in the parks, terrorists, kidnappers, and other criminals have taken over the forest and turned the reserves into their hideouts. He lamented that the criminals are better equipped and trained compared to the National Park Service officers, making it difficult for the park officers to carry out their legitimate responsibilities. Members of the House of Representatives on Thursday expressed grave concerns over the spate of fraudulent financial transactions being perpetuated by point-of-sale business operators across the country. The lawmakers expressed the concerns during the debate on a motion sponsored by Honorable Jumo Olajide, who solicited for the House intervention with a view to ameliorate the sufferings of unsuspecting Nigerians who are victims of the fraudulent practice. In the bid to address the challenge, the House tasked authorities of Central Bank of Nigeria to, in the public interest, introduce stringent regulations and guidelines, including sanctions on the point-of-sale business operations in Nigeria. In the split debate, Honorable Olajide frowned at the activities of some of the POS managers using the POS for fraudulent act to create fake credit alert to defraud innocent customers. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has cautioned members of the public not to buy land from the internally displaced persons living in Abuja. The admonition was issued by the Senior Special Assistant on Monetary Inspection and Enforcement of the FCT Minister Ekairo Arthur after the enforcement team removed illegal structures behind the old Federal Secretariat at Area 1 Gariki, Abuja. Arthur said some people were paying as much as 100,000 naira to the internally displaced persons for swampy land infested with snakes and reptiles around the perimeter fence of the old Federal Secretariat. He said the authority realized that many of the illegal structures had been in the area for many years. The Senior Special Assistant vowed that the authority will prosecute those selling illegal lands in the territory, saying the enforcement team has the mandate of the FCT Minister Mohammed Bello to arrest those allowing the crime and illegality to thrive. Now, the House of Representatives has thrown out a bill seeking to regulate studies for wards and children of Nigerian public office holders. Sponsor of the bill, Representative Shegus Ogun, said the bill, if passed into law, will strengthen the indigenous institutions, provide efficient service for national development, amongst other things. The current state of education in Nigeria has remained a matter of concern as it has consistently ranked low in world rankings. This is one of the cogent reasons for the mass exodus of Nigerians overseas for studies due to incessant strike actions by university lecturers, poor lecturer-to-student ratio, to name but a few. When it comes to traveling overseas for studies, wards and children of the elite usually take the lead. Most times, wards and children of the ordinary Nigerians bear the brunt of these strike actions as the parents cannot afford to either send them to private schools or send them abroad for studies. The funds used by these elites are most times alleged to be sourced from public purse. To this end, Representative Shegun Ogun in his bill said there is need to regulate the practice of public office holders sending their children abroad for studies.
Apart from that, a public officer who doesn't utilize public institutions will be indifferent about their well-being. There's also the worry that so much of our resources are being expended in foreign institutions. For instance, reports shows that Ghana alone gets up to 160 billion naira of Nigerian students' funds, while the United Kingdom gets about 80 billion naira from Nigerian students. More than 75,000 Nigerians are reported to be studying in Ghana, paying well over 1 billion USD annually for tuition fees and upkeep. Most of these foreign students are children, ward of public servants and political office holders who ostensibly cut away public funds to a private youth.
bill, however, met resistance, which started from Deputy Minority Leader Tobi Okechukwu, who said there is no proof regulating international studies will in any way improve the standard of education in Nigeria. Other lawmakers who contributed to the bill opposed the bill in a bid to make the sponsor of the bill withdraw it.
Is it likely that children schooling overseas is the reason why our educational institutions are not working effectively? We must make a distinction, Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, between hiring competent people who should man offices, who should be responsible, who are acting based on knowledge, as against legislating for things that may not in a real sense cure the problem.
It's not maybe because we are public officers, we don't see as children schooling abroad. Some have the means, apart from being in government. So if you say, because I'm now a member of House of Rep, I should go and withdraw my children from where they're schooling, and our institution here, as he has said, is not in order. Everybody wants the actually, most of us here, I can say we went to higher institution in this country.
I can't be discriminated because, or my children be discriminated because I'm in position of authority. That is the issue. They have a right, to be able to be educated anywhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, may further this bill in section 42 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic offensive very strongly, except you amend this section, then you can be able to say you are bringing this kind of bill to the floor of the National Assembly.
Representative Ogun, however, insisted he will not withdraw the bill. However, in his response, the Deputy Speaker, who presided over plenary, said the House cannot be blackmailed.
Our language in the floor matters, and we should not be blackmailed, and there shouldn't be blackmail. No. It's the last word you use. The last one. Please. Those in favor that the bill be read say aye. Against say nay. The nays have it.
This is not the first time this particular bill has been presented, and each time it has met same resistance. Now it is believed that investment in education needs to become much more efficient, requiring government at all levels to prioritize the sector, since it is considered as key to economic prosperity. Now, human rights lawyer Femi Falana frowns at other professions in Nigeria for what he calls shying away from politics and leaving professional politicians to take over the democratic system. This was the crux of Falana's speech at the Institute of Corporate and Public Sector Professionals 2022 membership induction and investiture in Lagos with the theme Policy Innovation and Public Service from Idea to Impact.
Professionals can stop the bad habit of watching television on the day of election and go out there to vote, to mobilize people to vote for good candidates based on programs that can address the problems confronting the society. The country will be better for it. But this practice of professionals on the day of election, sleeping and watching television, has never helped our country, because our country's independence was fought for by professional labor leaders, workers, women, young people. Those were the people who fought for our independence, not professional politician.
Now, he charged the ICPSP to be more committed to its mandate of training and retraining of professionals and also enforcing ethical standards and code of conduct. In her remarks, the ICPSC President, Dr. Folashide, said after the event that the body had registered 205 professionals in various fields as members since its establishment in 2014.
And we actually look at it that, okay, what can we do to better our services, most especially the corporate and the public service? And we all can see from the delivery of the guest speakers, the keynote speakers, and our special guest of honor. It's been a wonderful time. We need a new Nigeria. We need to rebrand this country. We need to do it rightly. We need to get it rightly, so that we don't just do it the way it has always been done.
The African Development Bank and other co-financing partners' portfolio in Nigeria increased by $2.31 billion between 2019 and 2021. Then the Director General, Nigerian Country Department, Lamin Barrow, disclosed this in Abuja at the opening of the 2022 Country Portfolio Performance Review Workshop. Now, Barrow said with the exit of 15 operations and entry of 6 operations since the 2019 CPPR, the bank's portfolio in Nigeria increased by $198.6 million.
Project implementation has picked up in 2021, evidenced in the cumulative disbursement rate, which increased from 57% in 2019 to 66% in 2021. Similarly, the portfolio performance rating remains satisfactory at around 3 on a scale of 1 to 4 during the same period. And fiduciary compliance has also improved with the progress observed in the submission rate of audited financial statements by the executing and implementing agencies. 2022 Country Portfolio Performance Review Workshop therefore presents a good opportunity to take stock of the progress we have made and also agree on timely actions that will help us to avoid any further slippages and ultimately cleaning up.
On her part, the Director of International Economic Relations Department, Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Aisha Omar, said the workshop was critical to the development strategy of the Nigerian government.
Particularly, it allows us to ascertain how value for money was achieved in implementing projects, and to make amends where there are deficiencies and challenges in order to achieve the primary objectives of these projects.
Now, the Nigerian Communications Commission says at least 195.4 million phone subscribers are in the country as of December 2021. NCCC's Executive Vice Chairman, Professor Umar Dambata, disclosed this at the ongoing 43rd Kaduna International Trade Fair in Kaduna State. He also noted that subscribers to the internet stood at 141 million, adding that with a broadband connection of 40.88%, the nation's social media space has continued to thrive. Dambata also disclosed that the Commission was set for the deployment of the 5th generation network in Nigeria, stressing that the telecommunications sector remains a strategic driver of the digital economy of the federal government. And on business news, Seplat Energy's plans to buy out ExxonMobil shares in its Nigerian unit's mobile oil producing Nigerian Unlimited is seriously in trouble, as Nigerian National Petroleum Company has also indicated interest. Reports have it that NNPC Limited has decided to take up its option of rights to the forced refusal and now wants ExxonMobil's entire assets in Nigeria's onshore and shallow waters. The sale and purchase agreement deal, which is worth a whopping $1.283 billion plus up to $300 million contingent consideration, is to acquire the entire share capital of MPNU as the U.S. company looks to exit Nigeria. Now, a report published by Platforms Africa, a news, business and leadership medium, stated that the state-owned oil giant had opted to exercise its right of first refusal on the sale of the assets. The RFR is reportedly contained in a joint operating agreement of the joint venture, which represents NNPC's position on the planned sale of the shares of Seplat Energy plc. And on evaluation, the House of Representatives Joint Committee on Customs and Excise, Banking and Currency has given the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Customs Service, as well as other relevant stakeholders, 2 weeks to reconcile their differences over the electronic valuation and invoicing policy recently introduced in the import and export chain. Now, the CBN had introduced the evaluation and e-voicing system in the import and export system in order to enhance revenue generation. After the investigative hearing held by the committee in Abuja, the CBN, NCS, and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria differed on the policy, forcing the lawmakers to ask them to meet and harmonize their differences within 2 weeks. After presentations by the invited parties, a member of the House Committee, Sada Soli, recalled the motion leading to the resolution by the House of Investigative the matter at the plenary on January 27, 2022. The lawmakers stated that the committee was to bring the stakeholders together to resolve the issues with the policy. And the news around the world. We now bring to you NEWSLIVE, but before we go, a recap of the headlines. President Muhammad Buhari aborts London medical trip, returns to Abuja from Kenya. Second batch of students arrive Abuja from Poland. Plus, NATO rejects no-fly zone over Ukraine.
Hello, my name is Phillips Levin, and for news around the world, we'll start with Beijing. The opening ceremony of an Olympic Games, be it the summer or winter games, is normally an extraordinary, intricately choreographed extravaganza which attracts hundreds of millions of viewers on television across the world. It is also a spectacle, a majestic show through which the host nation showcases its culture, history, traditions, and socio-economic achievements. The message of the opening ceremony for the Beijing 2008 Summer Olympic Games was peace, which was conveyed through the flying apsaras, the moving types, the Chinese paper scroll, the Asian Chinese drums, the Olympic rings, and the colorful fireworks. But the opening ceremony of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games was different, yet spectacular. The audiences were treated to a peered-down ceremony without the large-scale artistic performances that marked the 2008 opening ceremony. But it was no less symbolic of a shared future for humankind. Russian troops have seized Kherson, the first major Ukrainian city to fall in a devastating week-old war that has already created 1 million refugees. The capture of the Black Sea city of 290,000 people, which just last year hosted NATO-supported war games, appeared a significant boost for Moscow as it readied for potential ceasefire talks on Thursday. Russian occupiers were in all parts of Kherson. Ukrainian regional official Gennady Lukuta conceded after a 3-day siege that left Kherson short of food and medicine and struggling to collect and bury its dead. The town's mayor also announced he was in talks with armed guests. He had made no promises to the invading forces but agreed to a night curfew and restriction on car traffic. Stalled elsewhere, Russia continues to make significant advances on the southern front, with troops breaking through in Kherson, opening the pathways west and north and besieging the largest strategically vital port city of Mariupol. Meanwhile, an overwhelming vote at the UN Human Rights Council to investigate abuses following Russia's invasion of Ukraine should show Russian President Vladimir Putin, "The whole world is against you." Kyiv's ambassador says Ukrainian ambassador Yevhenia Filipenko, in a message to Putin, stressed that Russia is isolated on a global level and the whole world is against their actions.
Now, NATO at the Council to condemn Russia's aggression against Ukraine in the strongest possible terms. The message to Putin has been clear. You're isolated on a global level and the whole world is against.
Now, NATO chief says the military alliance will not set up a no-fly zone over Ukraine nor send its troops there, but promised other help to the country and urged President Vladimir Putin to end immediately Russia's invasion. After a meeting of NATO foreign ministers, Stoltenberg also said allies agreed to have NATO planes operating in Ukrainian airspace or NATO troops on Ukraine's territory. He said Russia's invasion in Ukraine was horrific.
Agree that we should not have thing over Ukrainian airspace or NATO troops on Ukraine.
And that's all for news around the world. My name is Philip Sliven. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Philip Sliven, and that's all on NEWSLIVE. But before we go, recap of the headlines. President Muhammad Buhari aborts London medical trip, returns to Abuja from Kenya. Second batch of students arrive Abuja from Poland. Plus, NATO rejects no-fly zone over Ukraine. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs. Many thanks for watching. Good night.
Full of innuendos and lies and misinformation, and we cannot at every turn address such things. As important as this is, it has the potential of distracting us and wasting the time of the House. We've just spent 15 minutes listening to your wonderful and heartfelt presentation, and I hope that those who practice yellow journalism will take note of the things you have said. This House will not be distracted. These guys out there do more harm than good, and they seek to do nothing but sow discord between partners in government. But we will not bow to such. Like you rightly said, this House has we've brought up motions, and the records are there, that even affect personal friends of mine and personal friends of other people here on the floor. Our motions on the floor are not based on relationships. We swore to the Constitution to do only those things that will uphold us as a nation, and that's what we will continue to do. Unfortunately, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But we will not allow this to distract us. Let them continue to practice their journalism the way they know how to. But I believe Nigerians are discerning enough to be able to shift, to be able to separate truth from what we now know as fake news. So thank you very much, Honorable Luke. Yes, the Leader of the House.
I remain Honorable Ado Dogwa, representing the good people of Dogwa, Chudunwada Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, like you all know, I am from the commercial nerve center of the northern part of the country, Kano. Mr. Speaker, I rise not only to add my voice to the very beautiful presentations made by Right Honorable Luke. Mr. Speaker, I rise to reinstate. Mr. Speaker, I rise to identify and consolidate